a little bit about your experience buying and selling real estate coming into the process.
Well, I was a bit nervous when I first got into it. It's been a long time since I'd owned a place. I'd moved around a lot, and so it was, I don't know, an anxious time for me to finally say, okay, I'm going to go for it. And the market is really at both exhilarating and stressful all at the same time in the Seattle market. So I said, all right, I'm gonna go for it, and went out and looked at trying to get a VA loan. And so I got connected with Zach through the VA loan company, and so it was great to meet Zach, and he helped me through the process tremendously.
So how many houses have you owned in the past? Is this your first house you've ever owned, or?
No, one, two, probably three. Yeah, three total houses.
Okay.
One in Seattle, one in Idaho, one in California. So
You've been a little bit all over the place.
all over the place. Yeah.
That's cool. So maybe share a little bit about the process of buying this house. Like, how many offers we made, how many houses we looked at. Like, what was that experience like for you?
Yeah. Well, when we first started, we had to kind of figure out, hey, where we were in the process. What do you want to find? You want to find a townhome? You're looking for a condominium? Could it be a house? And in this West Seattle market in particular, you've got all those options, but a huge range in prices for each one. So we have to fit into, hey, what can I afford to do? What do I want to do? And when I first started looking at it, I was thinking townhouse all along, and then I thought condo. Oh, and then I thought house. But then we started looking at some of these places and go, oh, gee, for my price range, this is not, I can't really get what I want in a house. So that's when I went back and said, you know what, I'd really like to find a townhome. And we made an offer on one, and luckily didn't get it. And Zach was great because he said, hey, there's going to be another one that's going to come along. I do this all the time, and that's what happens. So at the time, I didn't necessarily believe that was how it's going to be worked out, but that's how it worked out. So I was lucky we didn't get that one, which is important in this market, because when you go after a place, you really have to go after it hard. You have to make those decisions on pricing and the terms and whatnot. You got a lot of choices in there. So you have to be confident that when you end up with one, you really wanted to get it.
That's cool. So maybe about this house, like why did you decide to make an offer on this house? What did you like about this house? Why did you choose to go for this one?
Well, the first thing I look at is location. That was really important to me. I was very picky on the location part. And when I saw this, I'd actually known about these places years ago because I used to walk by here when I would get off the ferry. So I kind of knew where they were in here. When I saw that one came up, so wow, hey, maybe that one of those is in my price range. And when it came up, I said, boy, it is in my price range. And it was only a mile from where I'd lived before, so it was going to be a nice, easy move. And it just it was serendipity. It all came together.
That's cool. And now that you've lived here and been here for, what's it been, 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, about 4 months. Yeah.
What do you like most about living here in this spot?
It's perfect for me. So I've got some things that location-wise I can walk to. Parking's easy. The neighbors are friendly. I love being able to walk to Lincoln Park. I can go to the ferry. I was just playing soccer this morning, jumped on the ferry, went over, played some soccer, came back. I feel safe in this neighborhood. When my girlfriend comes to visit, she feels safe, which is great. So it's really important that you just feel good where you are. And then I really like the place. The place fits me well. It's good for one person that has a kid or a girlfriend or a friend that comes occasionally. I have enough room, and so it was well laid out just for me in that sense.
Yeah, and so we'll jump back just a little bit. So while we were in the process of getting you the house, what were the emotions that you were going through as we were looking at the different places, and then kind of made an offer, didn't get it, ended up here? Like, what was that emotional spectrum like?
Well, there was almost a time there where I wanted to give up on the process a little bit and say, oh, bag it. This market is too tough. When you're in there and you're making an offer and there's 3, 4, 5 other offers per place, it gets pretty frustrating. And what's great about Zach is that he said, hey, that's fine. That's okay. You can step back, and if you don't want to look for a while, we can do that. Or you can just kind of keep looking on your own, but I'll keep sending you things that work for you. And in the end, I'm glad I stuck with it, because this has turned out really well for me. And gosh, the market just keeps burgeoning. It's really unbelievable.
Maybe share a little bit about your experience working with me. What was it like to work with me in the process?
Well, Zach was from the very outset. He was very honest about everything, what he could do, what experience he had, what he was going to do for me. So that was really important. And what I liked about him the most is he really didn't push me. He just said, "Hey, this is up to you. It's your purchaser thing. I'm somebody that's going to be the conduit for you to do this. I'm going to shepherd you through the process." And in this market, you need help sometimes. It's not as easy as just going out on the internet and finding a house and go, "Oh, I think I want to get that one." And with me in particular, we had an issue that came up from my financing and through my VA loan and some qualification issues. And so I needed somebody to do some communication with the seller in my case because we had to do an extension. So in that particular case, you don't really think of that when you go into the process. You just think I'm going to go in here, we'll make an offer, put a price on, and then it's done. But when you need somebody to be a diplomat and to represent you, because it could have gone the other way. The sellers could have said, "No, we don't really want to do that." But Zach did a fantastic job of dealing with them. We put a 2-week delay in the process, ended up getting the financing through just fine, and thank goodness for that because it worked out well.
That's cool. That's cool. And so, what was the communication like throughout the process? You mentioned like communication with the seller and getting you that extension, but what was your communication like? What was the communication like between you and me throughout the process, and how did that work for you?
Well, it was definitely not one-sided at all. So it was a constant kind of back and forth, but it wasn't overwhelming. It's not like Zach was sending me 18 things a day saying, "Oh, you got to look at this and got to look at that," as if I was his only client and his business was just sitting there waiting for me to buy something. I felt just totally comfortable with our back and forth, and via text, via email, access to the MLS listings, to the ones that were appropriate that he would send me. And then the overall thing, it was a lot of fun. So Zach and I would go out, we'd see a house that was terrible, and then we'd get out of that house and we'd laugh about it and say, "There's no way they're going to get this for this house. There's just no way." And in the end, maybe they did. We didn't follow up on all of them, but I think when the process is fun, it makes it a lot more enjoyable for everybody. And then of course, when the outcome is the most important thing, but if you have fun in doing it, that's super.
You want to tell them about the one we bet on?
I can tell. Yeah, I can say that. So we had there was one that was so bad that when we walked into it, I said, "There's no way that this is going to sell at the price that it is." And most of these houses are selling for at least asking price. And I said, "There's no way. These guys are nuts. It's not going to sell for this." And I bet Zach a beer, and he ended up losing. I ended up winning that beer, and Zach did pay it off just as he did. So he follows through on that sort of thing because that house did not sell for what they were asking for.
What advice would you give to somebody that's buying their first house?
Oh, buying their first house. Well, in a lot of ways, this is almost like my first house because of things that happened with me and my family and my life. This is coming back to having my own place. So in a way, this was as if I was buying my first house. And you need somebody that you can feel totally comfortable with. So when you walk into a place, you can't stand it. You need to be able to tell your agent, "Hey, I can't stand this place. I don't like it." Even if you can't even understand why you don't like it for whatever reason. So being vulnerable, being honest, and you can totally do that with Zach. He's very very open. Doesn't matter what you're going to say. He's not really going to come back to you and say, "Well, that's wrong," because there's really nothing wrong or wrong about the process. It's just the process that you go through. So if you're buying your first house, I think Zach would be a great partner for you to go through the process with.
So what would you say to somebody that's buying a house in this market?
If you're buying a house in this market, what you need to do is you need to have a sophisticated approach to buying it. It's not as simple as just looking at that price thinking, "Oh, I'm going to bid a little higher or bid a little lower or change my terms a little bit." There really takes some thinking. And what was great about working with Zach was he gave you all the options. And he even tried to get some inside information from whatever the seller's representative would get for him. He would try to use that in the process of, "Hey, how are we going to go out this?" Because it's not as if you are the only buyer out there in this market. There are a ton of buyers out there. Prices go 5, 10, 15% over the asking price. And if it's one you really want, you have to work with your agent to figure out how to get it. So there are options there. You think, well, maybe I just put a higher price on it. It's not necessarily just a higher price. There are other things you can do to try to get the deal.
And your situation was a little more complicated because you had a VA loan, which is traditionally not looked at as favorably. Of course, it's a good loan and it's a good loan program, and I mean we got it close, but that's a little bit.
Yeah. So in my case, having the VA loan was not a positive when I went into a deal. But what was great about working with Zach is that he actually represented that really well to the customers. Wrote a letter to the sellers saying, hey, this is somebody that had been in the military, using his benefit of the VA loan, which is going to be very advantageous to him, and please respect that that's what he's doing and work with that. And in this case, getting this place, that's what happened. They did work with it, gave us a little bit more time. We did the deal. They're happy, and I'm happy.
So then, second to last question, would you recommend Zach to others, or use him again in the future?
Would I recommend Zach to others? I would. Let me say that again. Would I recommend Zach to others? I would totally recommend Zach to others. I think he's a great partner for you to have in the process, whether it is your first house, whether you're an experienced home buyer, whether you're selling your house. I think he'd probably do a fantastic job of representing you out to that market where you need somebody that can negotiate with a buyer or with a seller. So I'm going to recommend Zach to all my friends and relatives if I ever find out that they're doing a house deal.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
That's awesome.
Okay.
That was good.
Good enough?